morning. Okay. Thank you all for being here this morning. We want to talk a little bit about the border and the issues that are there. The administration continues to say that the open border policy is compassionate and that it is humane. And Senator Hyde-Smith, Senator Britt, and I were recently there at the border. We spent 2 days in January in the Del Rio sector, and we were working with local, state, and federal law enforcement. And while we were there on the banks of the Rio Grande, we watched about 24 migrants try to cross. In this group, you had children, you had adults, a mom, and you had a grandmother. You had a pregnant woman. And they were coming across the freezing water. They come up on the banks. We talk to them. We ask them, "Why are you here?" And they say, "Biden told us to come." So they feel like it is an open border. There are large group crossings that are commonplace. You all are seeing this on video footage that is running live there at the border, the drones that are capturing this. It is chaos, and that is allowing the cartels to distract and overwhelm the Border Patrol. While the agents are stuck in the office doing paperwork, cartel scouts order smugglers to areas where the Border Patrol is not. They're trying to sneak criminal illegal aliens and drugs and other contraband into the country undetected. During our trip, we were honored to be accompanied by a former Mexican congresswoman and also by a human trafficking survivor. We've heard how the cartels kidnap young women and girls to be exploited for sex and labor. Carla, who is truly one of the bravest women I have met and a survivor of human trafficking and sex trafficking, was raped thousands of times from the time she was 12 until she escaped when she was 16. After we got back here, I was determined to do something to protect the victims. And Senator Britt and Senator Hyde-Smith and I are introducing the Stop Taxpayer Funding of Traffickers Act. That would ensure that taxpayer funds are not forced to fund the lifestyles of offenders who are making our country more dangerous. The bill prohibits anybody charged with drug or human trafficking at our international borders or in our territorial waters from receiving federal government benefits. Currently, even after offenders are charged with federal drug and human trafficking offenses, many of them continue to live in government housing and receive other government benefits while they persist in exploiting and trafficking women and children or smuggling drugs and fentanyl into this country. The legislation will put an end to our tax dollars subsidizing traffickers. It also has the support of several law enforcement associations and law enforcement officers. Last year alone, law enforcement seized over 14,000 pounds of fentanyl at the border. That's enough to kill over 3.3 billion people. President Biden's open border policies have emboldened the cartels and caused human trafficking to grow from a $500 million a year industry in 2018 to a $13 billion a year industry. Criminal cartels are earning as much as $14 million each and every day. It is time for us to put a stop to this. And I turn it to Senator Hyde-Smith.
Thank you so much, Senator Blackman, and I really appreciate your leadership of taking us down to the border. And, you know, we had Senator Britt, who is a brand new senator, to go down. The stories these ladies tell you, you will never get out of your mind. You will never forget those stories of what's happening there. I can live to be 100, and I will never forget what their children, 12 to 16 normally is what they're after. You don't forget that. And to think that this bill is even necessary, that's pretty appalling. That we have to have a bill to say, by the way, we don't want our government money in this country going to someone who's charged with sex trafficking or human trafficking. But it is necessary. And the reason it's necessary is this president will not even go down to the border and talk to the people that we talk to. I am glad that we have come back and we are trying to address this. This could be so much easier. If this administration would look at this for what it is and truly have compassion and truly want something humane happening, we would be working on immigration policies right now instead of trying to save our money from going to people that have been charged with sex trafficking. That's what would be happening. It is just amazing, the financial gains. Nothing is going to stop these people making billions of dollars other than to go down there and close the border. It's too lucrative. As sickening and repulsive as it is so lucrative, nothing's going to stop it unless we stop it. That's our job to do that. The fentanyl crisis that comes across there that has been created because of this administration, we're living it in every small town in Mississippi and throughout the country. It is totally amazing. How much more alarming does it have to get that we would have the White House administration standing up here with us announcing the policies to improve it and announcing that we have a closed border? Thank you.
I want to start by thanking Senator Blackburn for her leadership on this issue. Senator, when I came in on January 3rd, as you well know, we were gavelled in and then gavelled out. I knew the people of Alabama did not send me up here to come straight home. They sent me up here to get to work, and you allowed me the opportunity to do that. Thank you for putting together this Codell. The two of you listening to the questions you asked and what we learned, it was invaluable. Because there is one thing for people to tell you about something. It's completely different when you see it firsthand. Listening to our courageous Border Patrol agents tell us about the struggles they have each and every day. As Senator Blackburn said, they told us we have been relegated to be paper pushers. We are inside processing these large groups of migrants that are coming instead of doing what we took an oath of office to do, and that is be out patrolling and protecting our southern border. Folks, when you look at the facts, they don't lie. When it comes to human trafficking, she said it best. In 2018, it was a $500 million industry, and today it is a $13 billion industry for drug cartels. Why in the world we would allow drug cartels to become rich off of our most vulnerable is beyond me. It's disgusting, and it must stop. When we heard the stories of these brave women who have stood up, men, women, and children, and gotten out of it, as a mama myself, I cannot imagine the pain that those families have felt, that those young women have felt, and I know that we must do more. When it comes to fentanyl trafficking, folks, under the failed policies of the Biden administration, every single state across this nation has become a border state, and Alabama is no exception to that. The first 2 months of our school year, on our campuses in high school, we used Narcan 15 times for fentanyl overdoses in the state of Alabama. Folks, that's unacceptable. If we were having something that you could visualize a little bit more, it's over 300 people a day that are dying of fentanyl overdoses, people would be alarmed and they would demand answers. What we are doing up here, and thanks to Senator Blackburn's leadership, we're demanding those answers now. We're demanding that the Biden administration stand with us, that sealing and securing our border should be a bipartisan effort. We believe in keeping our communities safe and our children safe, and we will not stop until we achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to compliment these senators for putting on the table a solution to a problem that most of us didn't know we had. So this has been enlightening to me, the fact that taxpayer dollars would be given to somebody charged for crimes that we're talking about would be a good place to start. So I want to congratulate the three senators for identifying the problem, offering a solution. And my recommendation, for what it's worth, is go down to the floor, educate your colleagues, and ask unanimous consent to have a vote on your bill. I'm dying to see who objects. So, but it's a bigger problem. That's why I'm here. I've been to the border many times. I introduced a bill yesterday to reform our asylum system. Most of the people coming are looking for the first American they can find to turn themselves into. What they're doing is claiming asylum. There's a belief throughout the world, not just Central America and South America, that if you get to America and you claim asylum, you're here to stay. Well, Trump broke that narrative by remaining in Mexico. When the Biden administration changed that policy, the floodgates have opened. You have to ask yourself, what happened between 2020 December and now? The policy changes by the Biden administration has created the narrative that if you get to America, you claim asylum, you don't leave. And you know why that narrative is there? Because it's true. We need to break that narrative. We need to make sure you can't apply for asylum in the United States and never be deported. 90% of the claims are denied. But people keep coming because most of them never leave. They never show up for the hearings. Now, about the drug problem. Why such an increase? It's just so easy to get it through the border. We had the lowest illegal crossings in December 2020 in last 50 years. Now that we're flooded with illegal immigrants, it's so much easier for the cartels to lock down the Border Patrol, as these ladies described. Get 100 people here, you flow it in over there. So until we control the flow, and if you don't change your asylum laws, you can build a wall up to the sky, and it will not fix this. We need border walls and border infrastructure, but we also need policy changes. Start with their bill. Stop using taxpayer dollars to pay people who are in the bad business, right? Another thing that I'm going to work on with these senators and others is making Mexican drug cartels foreign terrorist organizations under U.S. law. Without them, the fentanyl wouldn't be coming. And you've had more Americans killed from fentanyl than any war we've been in recent memory. This, to me, is a national security issue as well as a border security issue. So I look forward to voting on their proposal, but 2023 should be the year where we stop talking and start doing.
Right, time for a couple of questions. Tyler?
So you mentioned, very clearly that you don't think the Biden administration is taking the border seriously enough, but with what you mentioned, the fentanyl issue, the human trafficking, is there momentum among Democrats that you talk to in the Senate on doing something, even if it's not as far as you guys would like to go, with regard to the border force?
Someone would have to have their head in the sand not to realize that we have to do something. When you talk to our Border Patrol and our local law enforcement, and they say the cartels have better technology than we do, and they're surveilling us. They know where we are and where we're not. They're flooding the border with drugs. They're flooding the border with criminal, illegal aliens. They are flooding they're trafficking humans in large numbers. They're abusing these individuals. So there has got to be attention on the border. My hope is that they will begin to publicly talk about the need to do something at the border. There has been an unwillingness on the part of most of them to talk publicly about what needs to be done. We think this is a great starting spot. If somebody is trafficking drugs in human beings and they are apprehended and they're receiving federal benefits, cut them off right then. If later they're found to be innocent, you can go back and revisit that. But if they are trafficking drugs and people, the benefits, government benefits, welfare, housing, etc., needs to stop. Eric, you had your hand up.
Senator, would you categorize this latest trip on what you saw as just another example that DHS Secretary Mayorkas should actually step down?
I know the House is going to move forward with investigating him and the policies that they have pushed forward. I just, every day, I thank God that we have Border Patrol that continue to show up to work, even though their hands are tied. And as Katie was talking about, Senator Britt was talking about, they say, we're in the asylum business because that's what we're being forced to do right now. We are not able to protect and defend the border, which is what we take our oath to do. And they want to get back out and defend that border. It requires some kind of barrier. It requires better technology. It requires keeping Title 42 and remain in Mexico and ending catch and release. And they are ready to get back to doing their job. Go ahead.
Kind of walk us through. This is a very unique problem. Can you walk us through how you discovered that it existed and why do you think this is?
If you go to the border and you talk to local law enforcement and to federal law enforcement at the border, they will tell you about this and will talk about this. Yes, it is a unique problem, but there should be agreement on both sides of the aisle that people who are breaking the law and who are drug trafficking and human trafficking ought not to be receiving federal government benefits. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So, are they saying this exacerbates the problem at the border by?
It enables. Enables. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
At the end of last year, there was a draft circulated by Senator Sinema, Senator Tillis, who are working on a more comprehensive address to this problem, really. What are your thoughts about maybe revisiting that, working across the aisle with someone like Senator Sinema?
We would love to have individuals work with us. I did not see a draft that they were working on. You hear all sorts of things, but I've not visited with either of them specifically about what they were proposing. What I do know from the Border Patrol and the numerous trips I've made to the border, they all will tell you we need a physical barrier, we need better technology, we need more agents, and we need to end catch and release. And we need remain in Mexico. We need Title 42. And those are the things they repeatedly bring up. Eric, yes.
Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith kind of talked a little bit about this. If you were not dealing with this issue, you would be working on immigration reform, true immigration reform. You know, a lot of the critics on the Democratic side say Republicans are not interested in immigration reform, but I just want to get your reaction to that.
We absolutely need it. You know, it hadn't been looked at in many, many years. And I just feel that there's so many circumstances that the people that needed to come do business here, relocate here, or do whatever their intentions are could be done much more easily if we had the policy that was simple, that they could be very clear on their intent, come get it done, return, file for citizenship. But let's make it simple and let's take a look at it. But I, for one, I am definitely interested in immigration policy reform. And I think that...
And you had a question.
Yes, so Senator Graham, you said you enlightened him this issue. I'm curious, based on your conversations with border sheriffs, what else do you think is missing from the conversation?
Missing from
The conversation on the border.
on the border. I think that each of us would pay more attention to the humanitarian crisis. That is why we specifically focused on the humanitarian crisis. What is happening to people? They're basically buying the lie, if you will. that the border is open, you make it to America, and things are going to be great. And we know that people are being physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually abused as they make that journey. You wanted to say something?
No,
Go
I
ahead.
would say it is clear that under the policies of the Biden administration, it's open season for drug cartels, human traffickers, terrorists. For that matter, a lot of the people, one of the things that was brought to my attention when we were there, many of the people that they are locating that are gotaways or that they finally do catch happen to be, Chinese nationalist or from Russia. So it's not your typical migration pattern that we typically see. It's actually expanded to many more countries that are working to come over the border illegally. I think that's something we need to be aware of. The fact that it is a national security crisis has got to be paramount. In addition to that, is that humanitarian crisis that I don't believe enough people are wrapping their arms around and their head around what's happening. Senator Hyde-Smith has a story that I will allow her to share about something that she found there in the river. But we saw as we were going around, we were looking at pairs of little shoes and clothing of little children that were scattered throughout the border. And that child has a story. I mean, they were telling us of coyotes bringing these kids and letting them loose and just hoping that a Border Patrol agent finds them. This is totally unacceptable. We wouldn't allow this stuff to happen in a third world country, much less in the United States of America. And so addressing like that is of paramount importance. And lastly, I would say fentanyl. So I have a 7th and an 8th grader. And when we look at the reach of fentanyl now and what's happening, they mentioned to us that, during the pandemic, obviously, you had anxiety rates raised among children, people searching for things that they don't even know are fentanyl. Maybe they're asking for a Xanax or they're asking for an Adderall. And it was very clear from a DEA agent that one pill can kill, and even less than that can. 2 milligrams can kill someone who has never been exposed to fentanyl. We have to tell that story because some of these children, some of these kids in high school or college believe they're taking one thing, and in fact, it's laced with fentanyl, and we lose them. We have to speak up about this, and we have to speak loud, and that's why this bill is so important, to hold these people accountable and not allow them to benefit from taxpayer funds.
Right. Yeah. Yes, we're going to make this the last one. We've got to scoot back down.
Just kind of like an idea. I've heard from a couple of members on the House side, both the Democrats and Republicans, who suggested moving 2 separate bills in parallel, one addressing border security, the other addressing immigration reform, in order to get something done because it is an urgent issue. Is that something you all would entertain?
When I was in the House, we worked on the issue of trying to deal with immigration reform. Border security was the item we had to have first. There was not bipartisan, bicameral agreement that is how it should be approached. But getting the border secured, settling that situation down. Right now, people from 176 different countries, according to Border Patrol, is what we have coming across the border. You look at the Chinese nationals that are coming across the border, a 700% increase, and this is not something that is adding to the security of our nation. It is something that is a threat, and we need to stop it. Thank you all for being here. Mm-hmm.